The one thing that probably eludes man more than anything else, the one thing that man is always reaching for but never grasping, the one thing that man can never change nor manipulate, the one thing that man can never take away from, can never modify, can never remove, can never stop, and that's time. Time is always eluding us. It's always going forward, always moving forward, never stopping, never halting. So with time, there's a saying that time is of the essence, meaning that because we cannot stop it, because we cannot pause it, that it is very important to capitalize on the opportunities that are given. It's very important to focus on the now, not in the past, not even too much focus so much on the future, because the future may not come, but just is right here in the present. This phenomena of time, something that God has created, something that's only in the grasp of God's hand. I want to read you a passage in the Bible about time. It's in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, the verses are 1 through 14. The Bible says that there is a time for everything. So if you are growing anxious or you have some type of anxiety, if you have doubts or fears, if you have questions that are looming in your heart that you're trying to answer, even if you feel as though you are growing complacent, maybe perhaps you've gotten to a place in your life where you feel as though there's nothing else for you to attain, I hope that this verse can be a reminder for us all, regardless of the situation, our dispositions, or where we are in life. Ecclesiastes 3, verses 1 through 14, and verse 1, English Standard Version. It says, there is an appointed time for everything, and there is a time for every event under heaven. A time to give birth and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to throw stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to shun embracing. A time to search and a time to give up as lost. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear apart and a time to sew together. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. What profit is there to the worker from that in which he toils? I have seen the task which God has given the sons of men with which to occupy themselves. He has made everything appropriate in its time. He has also set eternity in their heart, yet so that man will not find out the work which God has done from the beginning even to the end. I know that there is nothing better for them than to rejoice and to do good in one's lifetime. Moreover, that every man who eats and drinks sees good in all his labor. It is the gift of God. I know that everything God does will remain forever. There is nothing to add to it, and there is nothing to take from it. For God has so worked that men should fear him. The Bible says there's a time for everything. There's a time for everything. An appointed time for every event under heaven. In verses 2 through 8, he gave us different time periods or phases in life. And of course, with all these different phases, all these different changes, all these different situations, circumstances, and dispositions, the Bible says there is a time for these types of things. That basically life has many different phases, many different seasons. That your life won't be a continuation of any one phase. So for us who look for happiness, we want happiness to be everlasting and permanent and forever. Happiness is a season. Happiness is temporary. Just like sadness in itself as well is temporary. All these things can be temporary. Maybe they can be in cycles. Maybe they'll all come more frequently than others, some less than others. But more or less, there is a time for everything. There is a divine time for everything. Now, keep note on that mention of me saying that there is a divine time for everything. The Bible says that with the time that we've been given, it's a gift from God. And there's nothing better for man to do than to rejoice and enjoy the labor of his toils. The Bible says that it's a gift of God. It's a blessing for us to be able to enjoy the things that we work so hard for. That it's a blessing to be able to enjoy the things which we labor to gain, things we labor to maintain. It's a blessing to be able to enjoy these things. But rightfully so, there's a time for everything. So it's a very challenging thing for us when we're going through trials, because the trials, as dark as they may seem, they feel like they just take forever. I know myself thinking about storms, talking about actual weather storms, when you have different storm systems passing through your area, sometimes it's like they fly by. Some storms move faster than others, but you have some slow passing storms that may even be small in size, would take days to pass by your area. And even when maybe the eye of the storm passes by, the remnants of it are still affecting you. And you're like, man, this storm is just moving by extremely slow. But what's hard to hold fast to in that very moment is that this storm in itself, as slow as it may be, is temporary. It's just passing through. Just like we are to life, we're just passing through. There's a time for everything. So it's important for us to make the most of every time period. Also meaning to whatever the time may be, to try to make it beneficial and useful. Find the good in it. Seek to try to hold fast to what you can gain from it. How can this help you? These times, knowing that they all are appointed unto heaven, all these times are given. Let's take what we can take from them to apply them to moving forward. Apply them towards perseverance. Apply these towards endurance. Apply these towards continuing to press forward to hold fast to the goal. Continue to press forward to hold fast to the very end, running that race of endurance, knowing that this is just another step, another hurdle, another obstacle. It's just another race. It's just another day. It's just another day. And we just keep going until the very end, knowing that he who remains faithful to the end, the Bible says, will be saved. We must hold fast to this and not lose heart, because we know that the Bible says that we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. In Romans 5, verse 6, I want to give you another verse about the perfect timing. God works in perfect timing. Here's another verse in relation to that. It says, for while we were still weak, at the right time, Christ died for the ungodly. And look at verse 9. It says, but God shows his love for us, and that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. That God saved us at just the right time. His plan came into execution at just the right time. He did what he did at just the right time. It was a matter of the perfect timing, the perfect action at the perfect timing. And even it says in verse 9 that while we were still sinners, right? It says that God shows his love for us, that while we were still sinners, that Christ died for us. While we were still in disobedience, while we were still in unbelief, while we were still in our wicked ways, that God showed his love, that even though we wouldn't appreciate, even though we wouldn't accept it, even though maybe we wouldn't even be able to process it, even though we would not even be appreciative of his actions or efforts, he died for us. He showed the greatest love when we were incapable of even receiving it. He gave us the greatest hope, even when we chose to deny him to his face. God shows his great love for us. That's why oftentimes in my prayers, I thank God for three things, and I say them almost repetitively, but it's not a repetitive prayer, but it's me repetitively being thankful for God's grace, for God's mercy, and for God's love. These three gifts that God gives us, we need to continually give thanks for. You may don't have to say it in that order. You don't have to say it in that way. But at least in spirit, thank God for his love, his grace, his mercy. Because without these, there will be no future for us. There will be no us. We will be nothing without God's free gifts. Galatians 4:4 also says more of the same. New American Standard Version. It says, but when the fullness of the time came, God sent forth his son, born of woman, born under the law, that he might redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive adoption as sons and daughters at just the right time. It wasn't too late. It wasn't too soon. It was at just the right time. So a lot of times as well, in many different situations, we process things and we see that we get anxious and we have anxiety because we feel like the perfect timing is about to pass, or maybe the perfect time has already passed. But when we have our faith and trust in God, we believe that the perfect time is something we won't miss, that when it comes, we'll be able to reap the benefits of it, whatever that may be, that the odds will still swing in our favor. We believe Romans 8:28, that all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. So with that being said, no matter what may happen, we believe that it's going to work out for our good. This will benefit us. This will help us. This won't break us. It'll only make us. It'll only make us better, make us stronger, make us more equipped to do the work that Christ calls us to do. Isaiah 60:22, talking about at just the right time. It says, the least one shall become a clan, and the smallest one a mighty nation. I am the Lord. In its time, I will hasten it. God was speaking to Jerusalem during this time period. He was telling them that the least among you shall become a clan. The least among you shall become thousands. The smallest amongst you shall become a nation. I am the Lord, he says. He says, I am he. I am the one. I am the one and only. The almighty, the all-powerful God. I am he. I am. In its time, I will hasten it. God says, when it's time, I will bring it to come to pass. In its perfect timing. You don't want to receive something too soon. You don't want to receive it too late. You want to receive it at just the right time. Because if it comes too soon, you may not be able to appreciate it. You may not be able to handle it. You may not know what to do with it. If it comes too late, you may no longer want it. You may no longer have appreciation for it. You may no longer desire to do right by it. But at the perfect time, Last verse, Psalm 69, verse 13. Closing out with this. It says, but as for me, my prayer is to you, Lord, at an acceptable time, God, in your greatness of your mercy, answer me with your saving truth. The psalmist wrote, Lord, my prayer to you, in your great mercy, that you may answer me with your saving truth at your perfect timing. What I'm seeking to know, I desire to know, my prayer to you is that you make it known to me at your perfect timing. Because when you make it known to me, my prayer is that once it's known, I'll now know what to do with it. I'll now know how to go about it. I'll now know how to receive it. I'll now know how to use it. I'll now know how to apply it. I now am able to use it to bless others. Let it also be your prayer as well. In Psalm 69, verse 13, that we may use what God gives us to be blessings. The Bible says there is a time for everything. Now, even throughout those times, listen in Ecclesiastes, there always will be right and wrong. The right time to do right is always the right time. There's always time to do what's right. There's never an excuse for doing wrong. So God is not giving us a window of opportunity for thus and so. But he's saying, hey, there's a time for you to experience many different things throughout this life. There's a time for each of them. There's a time for different things, essentially. There may be some things there may not be a time for in your life. But the Bible says that there is a right time, an appointed time under heaven for everything. And when God calls the time to come to pass, as the writer of Ecclesiastes wrote, that it will come to pass. My prayer to you is that you trust God's perfect timing. Remember Proverbs 3, verse 5 through 6, to lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge God, and he'll make your path straight. Lean not on your understanding, but trust in his. I thank you for your time, and God bless.